Hello, cosmonauts. Today we are going to be exploring what Reddit asks serious people that have died and been brought back. What did you see and feel? Answer 1. I had a saddle pulmonary embolism. The doctor afterwards told me it was the biggest clot he'd ever seen. I can't say for sure, but I know when it happened. In the moments leading up to it, I heard a voice say, "Sit down on the chair." As soon as I did, I was out. I can't describe it other than saying it felt like my body was lifting into the air. I felt simultaneously heavy and super light at the same time. I woke up covered in cold sweat. I spent a month in ICU after that. Answer 2. Nothing. I was just gone. Not even blackness. Just was nothing. I overdosed on fentanyl-laced cocaine, woke up staring at the ceiling with firefighters surrounding me who had administered 4 shots of Narcan. I had a respiratory-induced cardiac arrest. Not sure how long I was out. Didn't know what the fuck was going on when I came to, but passed out again shortly after being strapped in and carried down the stairs to the ambulance. Woke up later in the hospital to a gay nurse giving me a whole lot of sass, which I deserved, for being an idiot and almost dying. That was my second overdose. First time I was in the hospital getting dialysis for kidney failure for the same dumb shit. I don't do drugs anymore. Fuck that life. Answer 3. Nothing. At one point, I was riding my bike. The next, I felt intense pressure on my back and neck and then darkness. I woke up in the emergency room and doctors say that a van ran over my chest and neck and my heart had stopped and I was dead for 3 minutes. Literally nothing happened while I was dead. I've been knocked out and had weird dreams while I was knocked out every time, but this was just nothing. And then I'm back, as if I had a dreamless sleep. Answer 4. A few years ago, my heart hit 180 beats per minute and would not go down. A trip to the ER in NYC resulted in a dozen young learning doctors standing around as a couple of seasoned vets decided to give me a shot of adenosine. Technically, I had an A-flutter. This drug stops your heart for several seconds in a controlled environment and is intended to restart the heart with the correct beat. They stood by with paddles and gave the shot saying, "This may not feel comfortable." I was conscious as my heart stopped. I could hear people around me and feel tears fall down my face. The best way to explain the next few seconds was a wave of impending doom. But that is mild. It was a huge wave, a huge rush, a powerful enveloping feeling. I was quite awake, although technically flatlining. I could only say that whatever was about to happen to me was not going to be good. No lights, no angels, just oh shit. Like you veered off the center lane at 80 miles per hour and you're 5 feet from the front of a Mack truck. And then I woke up. In all, it was about 10 seconds, but an eternity. The drug didn't work, spent the weekend in hospital and ended up having an ablation. All good. Answer 5. Not much. Kinda just felt like I time traveled. I was run over by a truck and bled to death on the side of the road and had to be revived. One moment I was looking behind me and saw the truck right before it hit me. Thought, what the fuck? Then I just remember a massive force, and I was knocked out when my head hit the ground. Then I was in an ambulance with blood everywhere, and someone trying to talk to me after feeling a huge electric shock. Then I lost consciousness again after a moment. Then I was in a hospital and had just woken up from emergency surgery to save my life. No bright light, no dreams, no visions. If I'd have died, I would have just ceased to exist. Answer 6. I had an experience. I don't ever share it because I try not to remember this period in my life and because I hold this memory very sacred. This experience left a lasting impression in my life. In 2017, after I drank a bottle of Everclear followed by bleach, Drano, Ajax, and roughly 150 plus or minus benzodiazepines and anything else I could find. I don't know how to fully articulate my experience. It's so hard to find the right words for what I went through. There was no pain while consuming this concoction. I just felt like someone sucked all the air out of my chest and there was a bubble stuck in my throat. I had a friend that trusted their instinct and called emergency services on me. I had passed out and aspirated on my vomit, which burned through the carpet, the pad down to the subflooring. I remember paramedics pulling my tongue out of my mouth and hearing someone say, "She's not going to make it." It felt like I just fell asleep, but like the sleep where you know you're asleep. Initially, there was nothing. It was darkness. I felt separated from myself, like I wasn't in my physical form. It's hard to explain, like I was only my spirit without flesh and blood. I feel like I was almost teleported or beamed into a different dimension or world, and somehow I came to be in this beautiful meadow. The meadow was the most beautiful scene you could imagine. There was a little stream in the distance and a forest beyond it. I remember just enjoying this scene, this moment, and the beauty of it all. It sounds really fucking corny, but this meadow was so incredibly beautiful. All I felt was love and appreciation for everything. I also had a feeling that I wasn't alone, but it wasn't a bad feeling. I don't know how it appeared or where it came from, but there was a really beautiful orb that presented itself. Sounds cliche, I know. This orb to me was love in its purest form. The orb was able to communicate with me telepathically. The conversation was something along the lines of, me acknowledging the beauty that surrounded me and feeling like this is where I wanted to be. I felt like I was given a choice between staying there or going back to reality and back to my body. I really wanted to stay, but I thought of my siblings and how much damage my death would cause them. The moment I thought of my siblings, I felt like I was told, "You made your choice." I felt like I was beamed right back to my body, which had been in the ICU in a medically induced coma. I really feel like I could have stayed. I really wanted to stay, and often feel a sort homesickness and longing for that place. I can proudly say I'm glad I didn't stay. I will also add that was the last time I have attempted to end my life. Answer 7. I woke up someplace that I didn't understand. It was just like this plane. No structures. It was just off to the horizon in every direction, and I was like, okay, this is weird. Component placement. And there was a noise, kind of like a hum in the background, like an irritating hum. I don't know. Something. Then I saw somebody walking up from a long way away. I thought I recognized him, but I wasn't sure, and it took quite a while for him to start getting up to me, and as he was coming, the hum, the noise, the scratchy, irritating hum was getting a little bit louder all the time, and I realized that this hum was something unpleasant. I didn't know what it was, and I knew that I didn't want to know what it was. Then, I recognized the person that was coming up was somebody I knew. He was my old boss at work that was always nice to me and looked out for me. That died. As he walked by, he said casually, "Oh, that's just Steven. He's okay," and the noise went quiet. Answer 8. I had a rather strange near-death experience because I felt things in place of my son. Note that I don't believe in life after death or spirits at all, but I am convinced that the brain is an absolutely fascinating organ capable of very powerful dreams. At the maternity ward, my son, who was only a few days old, was very ill. That night, I entrusted him to the midwives. I didn't feel strong enough to watch over him. I wanted to sleep a little. During the night, I felt an intense cold, so intense that I could only shake very hard. Much more than a normal shiver from cold. I couldn't call for help or move. I was paralyzed. In fact, I thought, death is coming for my son. If I let it pass, it will take him. I fought as hard as I could to stop the sensation. I really felt like I had fallen into a frozen lake. Then it passed, and I fell back asleep. Sometime later, a pediatrician woke me up to tell me that my son was in critical condition and that they had been trying to save him since the middle of the night without understanding what was happening. His body was giving up. He was transferred to the hospital. The emergency doctor told me later that she thought she wouldn't be able to save him and that he held on beyond all expectations. I also saw him in critical condition, and I still wonder how he could endure that, apart from the harrowing situation. The episode that night made me think a lot. Did I hear something to inspire that dream? My room was across from the pediatrician's room. Anyway, I've never found any other testimonies like this. For those wondering, my son is alive. He overwent an open heart surgery that saved his life. In our misfortune, we were lucky that the department where he was admitted had one of the world's leading specialists in his cardiac condition. The entire team was well versed in this specific pathology. They understood what was happening within minutes. Even though it was a very rare case, it was really a close call. Answer 9. I saw the light. Followed it up into what I can only describe as a big hotel atrium lobby. All white. Every dead person I knew was there, and many I didn't know, but I recognized from old family photos. My grandfather said, "What are you doing here? It's not your time yet." Then I drifted away and woke up in bed with an almighty thump. The thing I'll never forget is the overwhelming feeling of love in that room and everyone there just being happy and contented. Could have just been a dream? I don't know. But it's never happened again, and I've never experienced anything like it. Answer 10. Not so much that I died, but I had a near-death experience. When I was 19 years old, I bought myself a motorcycle. I had been riding for about 6 months and felt pretty confident on it. This confidence is what almost killed me that day. It was a sunny day in September 2009, and I had just gotten out of my college class around 3 p.m. I put on my helmet, my gloves, and my backpack, and I thought to myself that I needed a haircut and started making my way towards the location, keeping in mind that getting on the freeway was going to be the quickest way there. Once I got on the freeway, it was pretty congested, but I decided I could zoom by the cars and get there in no time. As I saw my exit approaching and seeing I could possibly pass by the car in front of me, I sped up and passed the car at a high rate of speed, making the exit. Thinking I could maneuver easily around the curved corner that was about to come, I pressed on my brakes and my motorcycle went into a high-speed wobble. At this point, I got thrown off the bike and vaguely remember falling off. I must have hit my head pretty hard because I blacked out. When I came to, I was sliding on my back still at a high rate of speed on the freeway exit. This next part seemed like a movie, but everything around me seemed to be in slow motion. As I was sliding, I was passing cars left and right, and all I could hear is screeching from their tires. Once my body got more momentum, I rolled several times until I came to a complete stop. To my left, there was just dirt and grass, and to my right was the cars on the freeway. As I laid on the asphalt, looking at my injuries, something in me made me look left. As I did, I saw this blonde lady, blue eyes, all white business attire, walking toward me in the dirt or grass area. Keep in mind, There wasn't a car anywhere near her. It was just barren land. As she comes up to me, she asks me, "Were you the one that called?" I start telling her that, how could I have called? I was just involved in an accident. She then repeated again, "Were you the one that called?" Before I could answer her, I heard a door slam and a man yelling, "Are you all right?" as I turned to my right to tell him I was okay. I quickly looked back to my left and that lady was gone. I only lasted 3 hours in the hospital, with no broken bones, just road rash. I believe that if I would have told that lady that I did call, I would have died right there on that freeway. Hey you, if you enjoying the video, subscribe for more histories. Answer 11. I had a positive experience. But my favorite NDE story is told on an episode of the podcast Euphemet, episode 10, Lives. He's not religious. He's describing disconnection and consciousness in a fascinating and frightening way. As for me, not sure my age, but while a very young kid, I drowned in an apartment pool. There's a doc series on Prime, Death and Back. A woman describes her experience drowning as a child. What she says is the closest I've ever heard to my own. I've never heard someone else talk about the light from below when they were drowning, but that's how it was for me too. I don't remember seeing my body, as she says, but I went from blackness to dark blues and progressively brighter light. I experienced an energetic warmth and comfort, unconditional love. Brilliant gold, then white, replaced the blue. I was met by a sense of an ethereal awareness. But my memory ends there, apart from being revived. Since love was, as of then, an unfamiliar experience in life, returning came with very conflicting emotions. It wasn't too long after that when I impulsively attempted to jump out of a moving vehicle and off a cliff. As a kid with no sense of potential consequences, I just wanted to go back to the peace in the other existence. I'm thankful to know that we go to a place of greater connection. The decades since, and a few good trips, have shown me that we're never really separated from anything, despite the density between. We just shift our awareness, and the weight we feel inside becomes light. Answer 12. Not sure if this counts, but I died 3 times as a baby. I was born 1 pound and 9 ounces, and my heart was just, well, not winning any races. Spent my first 4 months in an incubator at the Ronald McDonald House, and I'd flatline randomly out of the blue, just to keep things interesting at the hospital. The doctors had to resuscitate me like I was a broken phone on 1%. So, yeah, just the perks of being an infant-sized potato. People love to ask, did you see God? Did you see the light? Was there a tunnel? And my answer is always, no. I was a literal baby. For crying out loud. I didn't even know I was alive, let alone what heaven was. My whole existence was basically just me existing in a warm plastic box, trying not to die. Heaven didn't make the cut on the things to think about when you're 1 pound list. I didn't even know I had fingers until I was like 3. So yeah, no great spiritual awakening. Just a really bad heart and a lot of resuscitations. Yep. Answer 13. I didn't expect to see a comment like this, but it sounds nearly word for word like my experience as an infant. I even stayed at a Ronald McDonald House, LOL. I was born 16 weeks early, needing to be resuscitated multiple times and dropping down to about half a kilogram from 820 grams when I was born. My dad could legit fit his wedding ring up my whole leg. I will say I'm not religious myself, but I am sure lucky to be alive because I only had roughly a 30% chance of survival. Not gonna lie, it instilled a strong idea of my own mortality from an early age, in that if I were born earlier in the past, even by just a decade, I wouldn't have been able to experience any of the life I've lived so far, but I suppose if I were, I wouldn't have the capacity to worry about it anyways. Sorry for the formatting, I'm on mobile, and writing isn't my strong suit. Answer 14. I almost died 3 times as a premature baby too. I was born a little bigger, 3 pounds 4 ounces, but this was 1983. In fact, I have a twin sister and my parents tell the story that we went into cardiac arrest at the same time. She was at home and I was already at the hospital. Our neighbor was a nurse, thankfully home, and ran over to start compressions on my sister. She saved her life, no doubt. As a parent now, I can't imagine how incredibly stressful and awful it must have been. I feel incredibly grateful to be here even if life has turned out much more challenging than expected. Chronic illness that leaves me housebound and often bedbound. Answer 15. 23 minutes of work on me. If I did not have my heart attack in my clinic, I would not be here. I remember talking with one of my friends at a job we both had in an ER 35 years ago, just bullshitting in a doorway. We looked in the room. There were 12 people in there working on me. I looked at him and told him I was going to see what was going on with the poor bastard in the bed. I walked around everyone, saw my mom and grandma, both deceased, sitting in front of the bed as I walked around. I got to the other SJD of the bed, saw it was me, went, ah shit, guess I need to go back, leaned towards myself. Had this very realistic dream and woke up a week later. Thought I was in 6th grade for the next week, then slowly gained my bearings. 3 years, L8R, 98% rehabbed. They told my wife I was supposed to be a vegetable. Answer 16. In 2019, just a few days before Thanksgiving, I had a late-night workout at my office gym. Afterward, I decided to use the sauna and take a cold shower, as usual, to wake myself up before heading to my dad's cabin for a discussion. However, the moment I stepped into the sauna, I felt dizzy and fainted. As I fell, it felt like I was free-falling at thousands of miles per hour. In that moment, my life flashed before my eyes, and I became an observer of my past. I recalled several childhood accidents, including a near miss with boiling milk on the stove, where I had tipped a pan and burned my left hand. I had to go to the hospital and spent hours alone until my mom arrived. Another memory was of falling down 24 steep concrete stairs, where I could clearly see my older sibling pushing me when I was just 4 or 5. Although I never went to the hospital for that incident, I still bear scars from it. The smell of spring flowers from that hill remains vivid in my memory. During this experience in the sauna, I felt intense pain on the right side of my face, neck, shoulder, and hand as I instinctively protected myself. I had fallen near the steam pipe, and the heater was set high. In that moment, I was ready to let go of life. But then I saw the faces of my beautiful wife and our 6-year-old daughter. It sparked a fierce determination to fight and escape the sauna. I'm not sure how long I was unconscious, but when I came to, I had lost skin on the right side of my head, ear, neck, shoulder, and arm. I went into shock, but still planned to make the trip to the cabin, feeling no pain. For 3 days, I resisted going to the hospital, still processing my childhood memories and feeling a desire to end it all. Eventually, after my wife's insistence, I went to the hospital. The experience of having the nurse scrub my wounds was unpleasant, but I didn't remember the pain. It felt like reliving past trauma in a way that led to a cathartic release. My life changed drastically after the accident. I went from running a successful construction business, earning $3.5 million a year, with over 20 employees, to staying home for 2 years, focusing on my health and spending time with my family. While I was physically present, I often felt emotionally distant. My family became my motivation to keep going, even as I struggled with deep depression and isolation. Reflecting on my childhood trauma, I now understand that I had been sexually abused before those accidents, which I had suppressed for so long. This trauma affected my ability to connect with others, and I didn't engage in any relationships until I met my wife at age 20. She is the only woman in my life. I watched friends share stories of their childhood abuse and their struggles with sexual desires, and I realized I might have followed a similar path if not for my experiences. In a way, life is unfolding as it should. In the aftermath of the accident, I used marijuana as a crutch for a while, but I eventually moved past that. I found joy in doing labor work again, tapping into a suppressed part of myself. Interestingly, I had to write with my left hand while my right arm was bandaged, and now my left-handed writing is beautiful, a stark contrast to my previous handwriting. This experience has brought me closer to spirituality and a belief in the afterlife and karma. I now believe that I don't need anything in life, as desire can be a sin. I understand that this mindset is essential to avoid being reincarnated and to find peace in my next life, whatever that may be. I feel complete and ready to leave this world without the need to relive this earthly existence. Each day is a gift from God, and I wake up prepared for whatever challenges the day may bring. I live now for my family and serve them wholeheartedly to my best ability. Answer 17 paramedic here. I've seen plenty of people come back from the dead through emergency intervention and CPR. I've seen the most deeply religious people praying to God, Allah, etc. as they die. After a few moments when they come back round, we ask them, "What happened? What did you see?" The answer is always a look of confusion, and the answer, nothing. No dreams, no bright lights, no golden gates, nothing. I saw a deeply religious man cry because he felt in that moment God did not exist. Answer 18. I recall being carried on the wind very high above the ground. The air was warm and smelled of spices. It was night, all bar a warm light in the sky that I was on the breeze being drawn towards. The buildings below had flat roofs, and I could see candlelight from the windows. I did not feel alone, but could not see anyone else. Apart from the sound of the wind in my ears, there was a constant sound of grinding stone, like you hear from millstones grinding grain. It was calm, gentle, and unforgettable. Answer 19. I died in my shower when I was in my early 20s while my ex-boyfriend was in there with me. He reported I collapsed, was not breathing, and I was blue/gray. He reported it was quite a while that I was gone, to myself and the paramedics. No pulse. What I remember is floating down a black tunnel with a large square light and the very far end of it. As I floated closer, I could see silhouettes of people on both sides of me. No facial features like eyes or faces, no voices, just dark silhouettes staring at me while I floated past. The closer I get to this light, I see it's a square window, and it's a gorgeous sunny day on the opposite side of it. Tall grass blowing around from the breeze, clear bluish skies with clouds. It was beautiful, but the closer I got, I could see my dog that passed away, running down the hill, stopping to look, and seeing me. He trotted closer to the window as I was now at the end of this tunnel. It felt like all I had to do was climb over and into this gorgeous scenery, and I intended to do so. But he came up to me, tilted his head at me, and all I heard was, "Not now." And that's when I was flying backwards through the tunnel. Flying past the dark silhouettes, faster and faster until I flew back into my body, leaned forward, and heavily vomited the contents of my stomach in the bathtub while my ex was blinking in bewilderment. He had called 911 and I so weak while he tried to get me out of the tub to put clothes on. The entire time apparently I was muttering my dog's name, asking where he was. My ex said, "He's been gone for a long time." To this day I know my dog, who was always considered my soul dog by family and friends, is the reason I didn't cross the barrier. It wasn't my time, but I still think about that gorgeous meadow from time to time, how peaceful and serene it seemed, the feeling it invoked. Death seemed peaceful. I'm agnostic with my fair share of paranormal experiences, but this one still makes me think of all the possibilities of what's on the other side. Answer 20. I started on a roller coaster going up a steep hill, like the largest roller coaster you've ever seen. It was also snowing heavily. There were people ahead of me and they fell off before we got to the top. Once I did, it turned into a water slide. It was rainbow and I was going over the desert. I stuck my hand into the water and could feel how warm and wet it was, and said to myself, "This isn't a dream. I can feel the water." Then bam, woke up in the ER, was told I was in a coma. Answer 21 can share my experience. I was giving birth, and it was going wrong. I was bleeding out, and my baby was showing severe signs of fetal distress. I thought I was on a boat. It was on a quiet lake, and I was drifting further and further out into the silvery white. I could hear voices off in the distance, but only just. It was very, very peaceful, and I was just drifting away until I heard my sister's voice saying, "We're doing a cesarean," and I didn't care, had no sense of it at all. Apparently, the room was crowded full of people rushing about, but I honestly thought it was just me and my sister there. There was a happy outcome. My beautiful girl and I survived. But I have often thought since that I really hope that all the women who died in childbirth back in the day, and there were so many, had an experience like mine. They just kept drifting off into the silver, calm, and content. Answer 22. For me, it was weird. I'm not religious. I didn't have tunnels or bright lights, but I had my life play out in front of my eyes in what I can describe as a split second. It was the reviewed without judgment, and I was shown when I had made the wrong choices and how it affected the life of someone. After that, it is only what I can describe as complete love and peace. For the first time in my life, I felt whole, and it felt like I was back where I belonged. It's hard to put that feeling across correctly. The only situation which has evoked something similar is when you fall in love with someone for the first time, and during the first few months, you feel this joy and glow from the inside. Answer 23. I was 5 and drowned on a family holiday. My sister found and revived me, and it was never acknowledged by my parents. It took me decades to process not only what I saw, but that I saw it. I felt like I was surrounded by other souls, and I was becoming part of the universe. Next thing, my sister's shouting and beating my chest, and I'm at the beach, totally too much for a child to process. But as an adult, I realize it's framed my beliefs in quantum mechanics, and the acceptance that matter is always matter, even as it changes form. Answer 24. My mother saw her dead relatives telling her it's too soon, that she must continue to live, for she will have children. Pretty wholesome at the time, but now she's in a children raised I can go mood, because she saw the afterlife or whatever, so she's not scared. Bitch, we want you around for your grandchildren. Answer 25. This was 40 years ago, but we were poor, like dirt poor. No car, no money, extended family all living in a tiny house, poor. When I was 10, my kidneys exploded. Water weight, ballooned up like I ate the wrong piece of Wonka candy, and I had to be rushed to the hospital in the city, an hour car ride that we didn't have. I basically rolled around the back of a cargo van until we go there. Spent weeks in the hospital, and my mother basically gave them permission to experiment on me, new treatments, etc., in lieu of payments they probably knew they weren't ever going to get. This turned out to be good, because the treatment they gave me then is now the SOP for my particular flavor of kidney explosion. But I spent weeks in the hospital, often going several days without a visitor or family member present because we were poor, no one had cars, money, and couldn't take time from work. About 3 days in, I went into failure and had to be resuscitated. Now, obviously at 10, I didn't know I was dying, and I didn't find out until I was like 15 or 16 what happened, but this is what I remember. It was like I was standing to the side of myself. A dozen doctors and nurses rushed into the room, lifted me into a sitting position from laying, hooked me up to a million things, and it was chaos. I wasn't scared, just confused and trying to be good, like a kid would. It was scary and frightening, and no one was talking to me, just around me as they flipped me around and did doctor stuff. Just when I felt myself about to cry, I noticed a woman in the doorway to my room. She was dressed in the adult-sized version of the gown that I wore, and she was smiling. She was pretty, early 30s, shoulder-length brown, curly hair, and she waved. I waved back. She smiled and told me that I was going to be okay. Not to worry, the doctors were going to help, and if I wanted to, I should close my eyes and rest. She was an adult, so I did. When I woke up, I was alone in the room and a day had passed and my family was there. I couldn't talk with everything on my face, but when I finally could, I told them everything. They chalked it up to me being in toxic shock, confused, scared, and dreaming. But I kept asking about the woman because she felt like a mother, warm, soothing, calm, everything a motherly figure should be. But I got told that I was dreaming, or it was another patient because of how she was dressed. So I chalked it up to that as a child. But another patient just hanging out in the doorway as I died, and a dozen medical professionals buzzed around the room. Never made sense. Why could I hear her but not the doctors? Why did she never look at them, only me? Why would they let her stand there and watch? Then I found out that I had to be resuscitated that day, and it kind of clicked, and I had a million questions. Was it toxicity in the blood? Possibly. Was it a dream? I did wake up a day later. Was it the body shutting everything off to give me a peaceful death? That is what happens. Was it a kind but nosy patient who wanted to calm a dying, scared kid? Could be. Was it the ghost of a former patient? I can't say. But I do believe in spirits, ghosts, etc., and have seen things I can't explain or people I couldn't find, but I can still see her face, even 40 years later. Hey you! Subscribe for more histories. Answer 26. One of my favorite stories to tell. So there I was sitting in the hospital waiting room. I was with my then fiance, her referred to as H. I was scheduled to get an MRI for my back due to a work injury. I'm sitting there following out paperwork. Next thing I know, H is shaking me and saying, "Wake up." I feel really nauseous and we're both confused how I just feel asleep. H was saying she was shaking me for a while. I asked the person at the counter for a "yeah can" because I feel like I'm going to vomit. The country people say I can't do an MRI if I'm feeling sick. I'm upset, but can't do anything. H says, "No way are we riding my moto home. Call Pops. He brings his truck and takes my bike. Head or of town to my friend. He will be called T1. Some people are swimming. I'm still dizzy, so I opt to just sit inside. Myself, H, T1, and a few others are talking about earlier at the hospital. H is saying how I just slumped over like I feel asleep in a chair. T1 goes, pointing at me, sorta like that, because it happened again. Again, I wake up being violently shaken. Again, ask for a trash can. Mention I want to go home. T1 flat out says no. She's taking you to the hospital. Something isn't right. Herp, derp, over to the local ER. Get checked in? Wait, get put in a room. La 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 in my head because I'm bored. Then I feel it this time. I'm about to pass out. Right then a nurse walks by. Last thing I remember, I try to call out, "Hey," with a weak attempt at an arm wave to get her attention. Next thing I know, I'm laying flat on the bed, hospital gown is pulled open, big electric pads on my chest. First thing I think is, you about to get FN zapped. So I tell, or I'm awake. They just look at me and deadpan say, "Your heart is stopping. DR will be in shortly." While waiting, I pass out, die, one more time. But I'm awake as the nurses come in. This time, I'm hooked up to monitors and they say it was 12 seconds with no beat. I'm like, oh, that's not good. It was the shortest, so to this day, I wonder what the longest was. Had to be over 30 seconds. Seems short, but forever long at the same time. So the DR comes in and just says, "Mr. L, you're getting a pacemaker." I ask if we're gonna talk options first. He's all, "No, we will install a temp one right now. Then you will have surgery tomorrow." Every time I passed out, it was just like falling asleep and not dreaming. Conscious 1 second, then not, then awake again. I always joked about my bad luck, but I can't in this situation. My heart auto restarted not once, but 4 times. This was about 12 years ago. New pacemaker installed just last year. T1 just the other weekend while helping run a moto dirt bike race. Said an older dude was riding towards him. Then the throttle cut, and the dude and the bike just feel over. Dude didn't brace for the fall, just sitting upright, and him and bike fall over. CPR by a few people for, I think he said, over an hour. Ambulance is over 4 hours away, they are in the middle of the desert. Dude never came back. Heart stopped and dead. I told T1 that home being around 2 people when their heart just stopped is coincidence. But if it happens a third, I'm gonna start asking questions I found out months after I got my pacemaker. That H refused to let one of my good friends in to visit me because of jealousy. H is rightfully so, now my ex-wife. Died 4 times. It's like falling asleep and not dreaming. Answer 27. I don't remember being brought back to life. I just remember feeling really at peace knowing that I couldn't get to the air that I needed, and that I had no options left. I was really quite calm about it. I took a big breath of water and watched everything fade away. No panic, no struggle, just peacefulness. Everything faded to black and that was pretty much it. I drowned when I was just about 4 years old. My mother found me floating in my grandparents' pool face down. She jumped in, dragged me out, checked for pulse, and started CPR. She was a nurse. I had no pulse and was turning blue. The only really bad thing that occurred was that my sternum broke while CPR was being administered, which is common when small children receive CPR. Answer 28. First time reading the real answer in almost all the answers. If you have a real accident with heavy implications and risk for your brain or life, basically, the brain disconnects its fade to black, and if they can resuscitate, you'll come back without knowing what happened. Then, when you are sick or in blood loose and dying slowly, even from natural causes, your brain for losing consciousness doesn't want you to be in panic running, losing blood or bumping your head around while you die. The solution? Pump to our brain a mix of endogen drugs that'll give you the best and most chill trip. What you're going to see in that trip depends of your personal situation. That's what happened. There's nothing magic or special in dying, just an afraid animal tricked with drugs to die peacefully. Answer 29. About 14 years ago, I was in Mexico with my family. First time all four of us had gone on a vacation together. Christmas Day, my cousin comes and wakes me up and asks if I wanted to go up on the mountains with their ATVs. My family owns this local shop where they deliver water jugs, milk cartons, etc. up to the folks who live up there for an added fee. My mom was like, "Don't get on that." Foolishly, I said I'm on vacation. First time on a manual ATV, so I took the ride up to get used to it. Long story short, on the way down thought I was good, and my cousin says, "Let's race." Of course I say, LFG. I accidentally geared up instead of down and ended up doing a wheelie of sorts off the cliff and feel about 40 to 50 feet, broke my wrist. Bone popped out, so my wrist thumb was actually touching my forearm. Broke my elbow, and ultimately the ATV rolled onto my neck. I was in a coma for just under 2 weeks. But here's the strange part. I remember all of it. Everything. Best way to describe it is, I was in the vicinity of my body, but watching it from the outside, I guess. When we get to the hospital, all I can see is the back of my family's heads, see my body on the hospital beds. There was this one guy who had been in a horse accident racing and fucked up his knees from the fall when I came back, so I asked my mom how the guy's surgery went, and she was shocked that I knew about that. Answer 30. It was very peaceful. I was just standing in a dark room and felt someone tapping on my chest. It got harder and harder, and then I was brought back into my body. It was such a weird sensation. I'll spare the details since it was a self-inflicted thing, but never, and I mean never, try to leave before it is your time. Suicide is never the answer.
That was enough for today, Cosmonaut. I'll wait for you in the next travel.